Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Pamela Durant, and I am the founder and managing director of DiapointME, and I am super happy to be here, and we have a very exciting panel lined up for you today. A little bit of background about how we got here. I scheduled I'm just going to close my WhatsApp so that doesn't make noise. I scheduled a face-to-face event back in March, and we were planning it. We had a lot of exciting things planned. It was going to be held in Dubai, and then COVID came to town and we had to postpone, and COVID is still in town, and we don't know exactly, when we all might feel comfortable coming together face-to-face with diabetes for an event. So I thought, what better time than to do this virtually? And actually, one of the added benefits is that we have more people joining us from other locations and not just here. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate this panel. It's really special to, I think, everyone joining, because we are all somehow touched by type 1 diabetes. Some people that are attending are type 1 themselves, or if they're like me, they might have a child with type 1. So thank you so very much. And we will have joining us today, Mohammad Al-Bahar from Kuwait, Mohammed Seyam from Palestine, Cyrine Farhat from Lebanon. We'll have, whoa, it just shifted, sorry about that, Yassmin Alshalabi, who is in the UAE. And we also have Noor Al Ramahi, who is from the UAE, but Noor is in California. And I think it's like 5 a.m. or something her time. So thank you so much for joining. And Mohammad Al-Bahar has to leave early to go to another call. So I would like to start with him, and I'm gonna ask everyone to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about your story and your advocacy and what you're doing, and anything else that you would like to share.
Yeah, my name is Mohammed. I am 36 years old, living with diabetes for 34 years. No complications. I have an advocacy account for type 1 diabetes called the Diabetic Traveler. In 2014, I established the Diabetes Ambassadors Program, which is in the beginning, it was an advocacy educating schools about how to treat type 1, how to know the symptoms, the early symptoms of diabetes, hypos and hypers. Then we started to extend to work on laws and regulations to protect the rights of people living with diabetes, as well as doing workshops for parents, adults, teenagers living with diabetes. That's in brief what I'm doing. I also participated in global challenges to raise fundings and challenges to show that living with diabetes is not a burden or a liability.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And if you haven't seen it, Mohammed has an amazing TED Talk that if you just look it up and find it, it's very inspirational. So I highly suggest you go find that. And Noor, you are the next one to the right of Mohammed. So I will go to you next.
Hi everyone. Yeah, sorry if my voice sounds like I just woke up, because I just woke up. Yeah, so my name is Noor. I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old, 27 years ago. I was born and raised in Abu Dhabi, so I kind of started my my journey there with diabetes. And I volunteered with Sheikh Khalifa Medical Center, the diabetes clinic, with helping newly diagnosed families. And then I started volunteering with the Children with Diabetes organizations as part of their youth staff for their Friends for Life conference. And from there, I became a faculty and speaker. I've spoken on topics that include type 1 diabetes and pregnancy, type 1 diabetes and eating disorder, and parenting with type 1. I'm a mom of 5-year-old twin boys. I live in California currently. I've worked with the ADA organization, JDRF, and a local nonprofit diabetes organization called CarbDM. I also, after leaving CarbDM, I moved to Stanford Medical Center, where I worked in diabetes research, focusing on diabetes technology, mainly closed loop systems. And two of my main projects were the 780 Medtronic closed loop system that's supposed to hit the market hopefully next year, and the Tandem Control IQ, a closed loop system. And I'm now focusing on med school, hoping to get my nurse practitioner degree, focusing on high-risk pregnancy, specifically type 1 diabetes and pregnancy. And yeah, like you mentioned, I live in California. I've been in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area for the past almost 10 years. I live with my husband, my two kids, a dog, a cat, a bearded lizard, and one of my main hobbies is powerlifting. I'm also part of a pregnancy diabetes group called Sugar Mamas, and I've struggled with eating disorder. I've been in recovery for almost 11 years now, and I'm also a mentor with an organization called T1D, We Are Diabetes, and we mentor people with diabetes that are in the recovery, eating disorder recovery phases. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
A bit. That's wow. I mean, I think all of you are extremely busy, and I really appreciate what you do. And I wonder if you all sleep, because what you're all doing is amazing. So thank you for that. Yassmin, you're the next one at the top of my screen. So can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Yassmin. First of all, thank you all for being here today and taking the time. Either you have diabetes or you are a parent of one. This is one of the major things that we diabetics, people living with diabetes, love, is meeting others and connecting. It's our main goal in everything that we do. My name is Yassmin Alshalabi. I am Palestinian living in the UAE. I work as a product specialist here. I am as well a yoga instructor and an NLP life coach. I've been very active with the diabetes community starting when I used to live in Jordan. We had an initiative there to help people with diabetes in need. It's called Your Device is My Life. We would provide them with the required test strips and emotional support every month. And we would go on awareness campaigns to test random blood sugar for people in the public and raise awareness in universities, schools, and public places in Jordan. The initiative actually won the #1 initiative in Jordan in 2013. And then I moved from Jordan to the UAE, and I have a full-time job. I have my page on Instagram where I try to raise awareness in the Arabic language. I think we lack that a little bit in our region, so I try to raise awareness. I am also a dietitian, a diabetes educator, and I use an insulin pump for my therapy. And that's almost everything, yeah.
Great. And also Yassmin was my key touch person to bring everyone together. So I want to thank you again for helping us to do that. And I do also agree with you that there needs to be more resources in Arabic. So I would love if you all could come together again and do this in Arabic. I won't be the facilitator because my Arabia is very, very little. However, well, I think it would be great to do that, to reach more people.
Well, even if anyone here today would like to ask anything in Arabic,
yes,
we can always translate. We're all very fluent in both languages, so it would be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. If you want to ask in Arabic, that is perfectly fine. You can either write it in the chat, or if it's easier, maybe in Arabic to speak the question, that's okay. And then for English, write questions in the chat, or we can certainly open it up for questions after. Thank you. Mohammed, Seyam.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Oh.
Am I muted? No.
Yeah, yeah, for just a quick second. Sorry, I think we both pushed the button at the same time. My apologies. Yeah. You can start again.
It's okay. I was hoping everyone is doing fine, and thank you again for this opportunity, as Yassmin mentioned. My name is Mohammad Seyam. I'm 21. I'm the youngest of the 5. Yeah. I study medicine here in Gaza, Palestine. And I've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2011, February 2011. It's like 9.5 years now, 9.5 years. Currently, I am the young leader in diabetes, representing Palestine in the YLD program by the International Diabetes Federation. And so we do a lot of campaigns, raising awareness campaigns here. We've conducted a diabetic camp last year. And by accident, I just noticed that today was the anniversary, the first anniversary of the camp. So yeah. Yeah, and I also have an Instagram account that I raise awareness on, also in Arabic, as Yassmin mentioned. We have a Facebook group called Positive on Glucose. You guys have heard the name before, or Cyrine would talk about it, I know. And yeah, this is basically what I do. Yeah, from medicine to diabetes, and this is simply my life.
Great. And what are you studying in medicine? Your specialty?
I'm still. Yeah, no, I'm still in a general medical school, in medicine school. Then, yeah, you know, I'm still young. Then I am planning to study endocrinology. I want to help diabetics more. So yeah, hopefully this could happen soon, or sooner than I think.
Yeah.
I don't know when. We're still in lockdown. We do nothing these days.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to know, but I'm sure this will be behind us someday, and you'll make an amazing endocrinologist. Wonderful. Is Cyrine here yet? I don't see her. Okay, so whenever she joins, we will have her introduce herself. And I want to be mindful of the time because, oh, is she
there?
Where is she?
She's available.
Oh, there you are. Okay, welcome. I didn't see you when I was scrolling through.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry it took me like 5 minutes extra to be here. I've been on the road ever since morning, so should I just start introducing myself?
Yeah, please introduce yourself. Thank you for taking the time. It doesn't matter that, you know, you're late or whatever, you're here. That's what counts.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Cyrine, or also known as Positive on Glucose. I'm Lebanese, I'm 28, and I've had diabetes since 2006. I have been happily blessed with diabetes. I started my Instagram account, Positive on Glucose, when my dad got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And after a dad's friend committed suicide because of complications like related with diabetes. And that is when I thought that we needed a community that loves diabetics and makes them take like a positive outtake or perspective on diabetes, because we lack that. That's how the community started. I just wanted it to be a place where people can express whatever concerns they have, and they can get the chance to see other diabetics excel at life, regardless of their diabetes, and just take it as a superpower instead of a burden. I went on from that to become a T1 International Global Insulin Advocate. So I advocate the right of access to insulin, because insulin is a human right, and no one deserves to have to choose between having insulin or putting food on the table at a certain point. I'm also a Blue Circle Voice member with IDF, and I'm an angel mom, not because of diabetes, because of another pregnancy complication. I love saying that out loud because people usually associate baby loss with diabetes, and I don't want that. It's not related. Just because you're diabetic doesn't mean that you can't have children. So I try to raise the voice about that. Recently, because of the lockdown and the COVID, I started two initiatives, and I'm kind of now also co-founding one in the process. One is Baby Loss LB, to help mothers who have lost babies to cope with their anxiety and stress and postpartum. The second is Innovatively Yours, which basically helps people who have lost their jobs during COVID to use whatever skills they had or have to start a business and make money. The third is Insulin for All Lebanon, where we are collectively trying to raise money and donations to help people in Lebanon who have been affected by the blast and cannot or lack access to their basic medication or diabetes needs. So that's kind of everything I do in a nutshell. I hope I wasn't too long.
No, that's amazing. Again, all of you are doing so much, and I think your work is so valuable. I don't know how you sleep, because truly it's amazing. It's more than what I say, person without diabetes might be doing. And I think I do agree with you that diabetes is a superpower. And I always tell my son this often, because it really is. And I get to meet the most amazing people because of diabetes. And you all are so, so very inspiring. So one thing I want to ask, each of you could just answer, what was kind of because obviously a diabetes diagnosis at any age is not easy. And even if you were diagnosed when you were very young, maybe you don't remember your diagnosis. Like my son was 20 months old, so he doesn't really know life without it. But, there will be times in his life where he'll find it challenging, or he doesn't want to deal with it, or doesn't want to have it, or whatever. What was kind of the turning point in your life when you said, that really changed you and made you want to, become an advocate and do what you do? And Cyrine, you touched on that a little bit about why you started your Facebook group and things like that. Was there anything else? I'll start with you, Cyrine. Was there anything else that contributed to what you do, or how you manage your diabetes, or when you really embraced it?
I think I started to make peace with it maybe 5 years ago. It's a journey. Like, it's very challenging to accept that you have this and you have to love it. And once you start loving it, it kind of starts loving you back, because you will not really manage it well until you embrace it. I've always I was helped by an NGO when I was young and couldn't afford my medication. But I always felt like I needed more. Like, diabetics are not supported enough. There's no community. I didn't know any diabetics 5 years ago. I've never had any diabetic friends. So all of these things kind of triggered me to kind of, okay, there's a gap here and there, and I have to do something, because if I don't, who will? No one has done that yet. And that kind of always put it in the back of my head. I only took action once my dad was diagnosed and I saw another person's dad suffer. I was like, khalas, I have to do something. Like, I can't just stay there sitting doing nothing. And I literally created the page when I was super angry. Like, I was super angry and just turned that into something. Khalas, I need to do something here. I need to work on it. But I have to say, it's a process. Like, you don't really come to terms with your diabetes 100%. There's always that 1% where you say, why me? Or this is tough, or not today. I don't want to deal with it today. But at the end of the day, you have this. There's no alternative. You have to live with it in the most positive way you can, because if you don't, there's a lot at risk. So
yeah, that emotional charge sometimes can really make it, turn into something constructive. And it was good that you placed it there. Mohammad Al-Bahar, because you will have to leave us soon, but I hope not. I watched your TED Talk, so I know a little bit about kind of, your story around that, but can I ask the same question to you? When kind of did you start embracing your diabetes and start doing all of the things that you're doing?
I think living with diabetes is, we have to define the relationship between us as people living with diabetes, is that diabetes doesn't define us. We have to know that diabetes is part of us. But I think part of the culture and part of parents is the first question being asked is, how is your diabetes? How was the evaluation? Is if I did good, if I had good BGs, I will be a good son. If I behave bad, that means related to diabetes. So everything is related to diabetes. Everything is connected to diabetes. And that actually helped in the process of me not accepting it, me not accepting it during puberty, because during puberty you have hormones and you're growing, and nobody accepts himself or herself going through puberty. But I know some people do accept themselves during puberty, but I wasn't this type of a person who does. And I had a very good relationship with my doctor. She had to leave. She had to go back to Cairo because she had an ailing husband that she needed to be helping and supporting. So in 2011, I went to a severe hypocoma. I seen like really an imaginary kind of a vision. And when I woke up, I said, I'm 28 years old. I should be in charge of my diabetes and so on, but I didn't know how. Then I took some courses related to diabetes and I met other people doing that. And the acceptance started to be, is me accepting my diabetes then started me accepting myself as a person rather than the other way around. So it was like you bring a vase and break it, and then you start to collect the damaged items from the outer side to the inner side. So it's like a big explosion that you need to tackle and need to observe at the same time. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. Was it challenging? Yes, it was challenging, but because I did it by myself. I had my friends with diabetes, but still, when you go back home, you're doing it by yourself. You're struggling your own demons. You're struggling your own diabetes. You're struggling your own thoughts when you change your medications, and so on. And I've been accused of me not being responsible because I'm changing my meds, because the new meds are not causing me to have frequent hypos. And when I was using a pump, I was accused of me being spoiled or me just trying to draw attention. But actually, my doctor subscribed for me the pump to have, because I used to have frequent hypos. I used to have 6 to 7 hypos per day, and I couldn't exercise, I couldn't drive, and then when I drive, I have a hypo, and my life was on a pause, and you're just snacking and hypo, and then I realized it was more emotional rather and psychological rather than diabetes and medication.
That's a lot of very good advice that you give within there, especially for parents. I think it's so important because sometimes we forget everything becomes about the diabetes, right? And even though I think I'm not asking so much, I'll ask my son, I'm like, how's your blood sugar? And he's like, it's happy, it's sad. It's, you know, he won't answer with the number. And then I know he's kind of like, okay, he doesn't really want to, he gives me an answer, but he's tired of answering it. So time to, you know, back off and maybe not talk about it right then and there if we don't really have to. Yassmin.
I think I missed in the introduction to say that I was diagnosed at 4 years old, and I've been living with it for 24 years now. I'm 28. The turning point for me was in 2012, where similar to Mohammed, I got into a hypo while I was sleeping. So I'm the kind of person with diabetes who, when goes into a hypo coma, I go into a seizure as well, which caused me to bite my tongue in a very bad way. I only remember waking up in the hospital, asking very weird questions because for some reason, I don't know what happened while I was in the coma, but for some reason I thought I was back at 18 years old or 17 and I was living in another country. So that was funny. But when after this happened, I used a lot of test strips and I used a lot of medications and everything. And I want to say I'm privileged, and God gave me a lot of blessings because my family could afford it. And I had a supportive family at that time where they were there for me, frontline, making sure that I got through what I went through at that age. But on a subtle level, I always felt that I felt like I was kind of privileged that I have that, and I needed to help others. So that's when the initiative in Jordan started, and that's when we started raising awareness about diabetes. On a subtle level, I think, and in a subconscious level, I always felt that I wanted to connect to more people who have diabetes, because the 1% that Cyrine talked about, where you still have this question of why did it happen to me? It becomes much, much easier to handle day to day when you have people to talk to. When you have a community that really understands when you say, I have a hypo or I have a hyper, because as much as your parents, your spouses, your children would like to understand how a hypo or a hyper feels like, it's not the same.
That's true. Absolutely true.
So connecting with like the panel that are here today, who are all very close friends, it has been, honestly, even at 28 years old, it has been a game changer for me. So yeah, that like the coma that I went through, the seizure and the trauma there, that's what caused me to reach out and do more.
Lovely. Yeah, I think it's so important for people to meet other people with diabetes. And it really, it puts a lot of things in perspective, and it really changes it, because it's one thing for your doctor who doesn't have diabetes, that's, you know, studied it, to tell you to do something. But it's also very difficult, I think, probably to relate to that. And if you can, you know, you share your stories, you share your experiences, you learn from each other, but just for other people to meet you exactly where you are and know exactly what that feels like, I think is so critical. And that's why I love the work that all of you are doing, and that you all also do it together as well, is really great. Mohammed, Mohammed, do you have anything to add to that? You're on mute. Yeah, there you are.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I was diagnosed at school. I was at school at the time of my diagnosis. I got tired. The main problem was, like, you know, the three Ps: the polyphagia, the polydipsia, and the. I went to the bathroom a lot. Like, I asked the teacher to go to the bathroom 2 times in 30 minutes, which was crazy. So he just told me that you should get tested. Like, maybe you have something wrong with you. And this is where the whole story of my diabetes started. I didn't know that I had diabetes back then. And like, thank God, till now, I have never been into DKA or any hypocomas or something. But I believe the main challenge that we have, especially in the Arab world here, is that we grow up with diabetes in a community that knows nothing about diabetes. So the lack of education is the main problem. Yes, like, let's say our parents can be supportive, but in limited things, in what they know, because they don't know a lot about diabetes. So I had to, you know a lot about diabetes. I had to learn a lot about diabetes till I get to a point when I started my university. That was 4 years ago. And it was like a new challenge for me, a new chapter of my life. So I wanted to do more about diabetes. I wanted to change myself also in the diabetes perspective that I have. And I think that this was the turn point that I started to educate more people about diabetes. I started to talk more about my diabetes. I started posting things about diabetes. The whole university started to know who Mohammed is. He's a diabetic. He talks a lot about his diabetes. So it was like changing my whole mindset. Like, being in an Arabic community would mean that you don't really talk a lot about your diabetes or about anything that you have, because you don't want people to talk about you in sympathy or in empathy. So I just wanted to change all of this. I just wanted to let people know that I'm a diabetic. I study medicine. I can do a lot of things. Diabetes does not, forbid me from doing anything. So this is where it started. And I believe this year, 2020, was the best year when it comes to diabetes for me. Yes, the world is having a crisis somehow, but like, I knew all the people here that are talking with us today because of what we do, because, like, using Instagram, only Instagram made me know all of these people, all of amazing people, to be honest, because I am very lucky to know them all. And this is where it all starts. It all started. More raising awareness, helping people more. I helped a lot of people, because as you mentioned, your endocrinologist will only tell you what books say about diabetes. They won't tell you how the experience with diabetes would affect you or affect people around you. And this is where it comes to the peer activities, the support groups that you might have, to be able to talk to them, to be able to talk to people, as Yassmin mentioned, who understand every perspective about diabetes. So yeah, this is basically what I had. Like, I overcame my challenge with diabetes with talking to people who have diabetes just like me, who can understand what I'm going through.
My apologies, I was on mute. Okay, excellent. And Noor, what was it that launched your advocacy and volunteer career? Because you started, I mean, how old when you were started? None of you are that old, and you've all done so much. So you must have started really early.
Yeah, so my diabetes story started, it was very smooth sailing. My mom, who's I think on this call, hi mama,
Oh,
she took
nice.
she managed my diabetes because I was diagnosed really young, and it was all smooth sailing, and to the extent where the clinic and my doctor kind of everybody knew me as that model patient and put me on a pedestal until puberty kicked in and hormones and everything, and it was harder for me to manage my diabetes, and I felt like I was failing everybody. I was failing my doctor, I was failing my family, everybody that kind of looked up to me because of how well my diabetes used to be managed, and I felt like I was doing something wrong. So I started to hide things and how my diabetes was going, and things started quickly taking a turn for the worst. And that's kind of also when I started to feel very isolated and alone in this journey. I know things have changed significantly since then, but there wasn't any community back then, and there was a lot of stigma associated with having diabetes. So nobody's talked about it, even if they had it, and it was very isolating. So I just didn't want to deal with it. I was in denial. I kind of just wanted to brush it under the rug and make it go away. So and that's when I kind of also figured out how to manipulate my insulin to help me lose weight. And as a result of that, I was in and out of the hospital a lot. I was in a coma. I had multiple cardiac arrests, DKAs, and that's when my family and the clinic decided that Children with Diabetes, the Friends for Life conference would probably be a good place for me to go. I was in my early teenage years, and I did not want to go. It kind of felt like, to me, it was like, forcing someone to be in that geeky science club. No offense to any scientists, I'm one of them now. So I just did not want to go. But my mom forced me to go, and it was the best decision. I remember the turning point for me was we were on a bus. For those of you who don't know, the conference is held at Disney World in Orlando every year. So we were on a bus going to the park, Disney Park, and there was this kid who's now one of my best friends. He had type 1 diabetes, and he was kind of like the poster child for diabetes, and like and he was sitting there, he was checking his blood sugar on his forearm. And I was like, his name was Kenny. I'm like, Kenny, like, why are you not using your fingertips? He was like, just in case I ever develop complications like in my eyesight as a result of diabetes, I want to be able to not have calluses and read Braille. And that was kind of that moment where I'm like, here I am sitting with an A1C of 13, not a care in the world, and there's this kid with an A1C of in the sevens. Again, not judging according to A1C, that's a whole different story. But he's concerned about his life, and that kind of opened up my eyes to me needing to take better care of myself. And then at the conference, I also saw the potential that people with diabetes have. I saw these NFL players, the Ironmans, the singers, actors, and even like everyday people who were just living their best life, teenagers having good relationships with their parents. And that relationship was something that I damaged as a result of my mismanagement with diabetes and lying and hiding and manipulating things. So that's when I kind of wanted to change things, and I became involved with children with diabetes. And as life happened and my journey kind of evolved and I experienced more milestones, I became more involved with things like pregnancy and type 1 diabetes. And these were just things that selfishly I feel also helped me stay accountable by helping people, and brought me so much joy, and just meeting amazing people like everybody on this panel. And really that support is something that's just unmet anywhere else in the world with any other community, and it's opened up so many opportunities for me career-wise, and and yeah, so that's kind of how my journey started and with things. So
thank you for sharing that. That's
you're
amazing.
welcome.
I think for each of you, I need to have like a whole hour for each one of you. So I hope that you'll come back because there's so many questions I have for everyone. But I want to get to some of the questions that are starting to come in. And this one's from Selma. She's 11 years old. And she wants to ask, did you deal with diabetes with your classmates or friends? And how did you overcome being shy about it or any annoying comments from kids at school? Who'd like to jump in? Yasmin's raising her hand.
Yeah. First of all, Salma, thank you so much for asking the question. It's awesome that you're here and you're listening to all of us. Honestly, I think, I'm not sure about the rest, but I have been through some stuff in school where friends or even teachers would put me in very embarrassing situations. Like I had a teacher once, she saw me, it's Ramadan and everyone's supposed to be fasting, but I wasn't. So she took me in front of the whole department, front of all of the girls holding my sandwich and like shaming me because I wasn't fasting. The poor lady, she was new and she didn't know that I had diabetes, and like she apologized later and everything. But the thing that I did, and I think my family helped in this, and I think my dad just tuned in, is that they told me to own it, like just own it that you have diabetes. So it can be hard and some comments can be very harsh, but it makes us unique. Like diabetes really makes us unique. So just like own it. So what? So you have diabetes, so what? I'd rather have diabetes than to be stupid, for example, or not stupid. I'd rather to have diabetes rather than to be unkind or cruel or, so diabetes is not the worst thing to have.
I have a story to add. Actually, when I was about 6 years old or 7 years old, I had a math teacher and I had a hypo in the class, and she was addressing the question to me, and I got the answer in my head, but I couldn't respond due to lack of being able to respond back. And she said, I'm going to call your mother the next day and I'm going to address that you are such a lazy student. And the next day my mom came to school and she said, your kid is not fit to be in regular school. He has to be shifted to schools of kids with special needs. And actually at that incident, I started to hate math because of that incident. And now when parents do come and talk to me about diabetes and what happens in schools, we usually get invited in schools because the mother asked for that and addressed for that. And we have the material in Arabic and in English as well. So we do presentations with questions and answers and what kind of things to avoid and what kind of, and especially some students when they have examinations that they want to go to the restroom and they don't allow them to do that, which can be a critical matter during the tests and examinations.
Excellent. We have another question, and where's this one? This is from Sarah T. Thank you for your time. It makes a difference listening and learning from people who are T1Ds. And my question is, have any of you experienced burnout, and how did you manage to get out of that? Mohammed, Seyam, I'll jump to you.
I just wanted to add something for the previous question as well.
Yes.
To be honest, I was not that open about my diabetes in in elementary school and blah blah blah. But when I went to high school, it started to pop out more, and I believe that I control, or the diabetic himself control what people would say about him, or what people would think about him when it comes to diabetes. If I'm gonna be shy and afraid of what might happen to me, it would be bad for them. It would be bad for me when they talk to me about my diabetes. So I think that for me, I was more open about my diabetes in a positive way. That not these days positive. But right now, I'm very positive when it comes to my diabetes. I'm kind of loving my diabetes right now. This is weird to hear from a diabetic, but yeah. Um, and yeah, I guess, yes, it's all about the mindset. It's all about what do you think of yourself. And if you think positively, then people will also think positively, because you will, as I always say, you will radiate this positivity. So yeah, this is how things happen when you're young. So yeah, I think you control this, you control it. You can help yourself more than what people can help, especially if they're not diabetics.
Great. And who would like to talk about burnout? Yeah?
I've got something to say about burnout.
We all have,
Oh.
like, yeah, we all have faced burnouts. But yeah, diabetes, can be challenging a lot sometimes. And there's a point in my life that I started, we all face, problems, especially females. But I believe, like for me, every 2 to 3 months, I get those 3 to 4 days of hypers that I don't know why I'm hyper. I don't know what is happening to my body. And I start like, hating myself for this. I start hating my diabetes. Like, why? I'm doing everything correctly. I take my insulin. I carb count. I do everything correctly. What is happening to me? And even my endocrinologist wouldn't be able to help me. So I just had to wait for those like 4 days to pass while taking insulin, as we say, like water. I used to take insulin a lot those days. So I think it is challenging. It is hard when burnouts happen. But as I said, you just need to talk to people. You just need to diabetics, especially, people would understand what you're facing. And of course, you need to seek support whenever you are facing something wrong. This is my advice. You just seek the help that you might need.
Yes. Nora, I think you were going to add something to that.
Yeah, I just want to say burnout is real, you guys. It is huge. In the diabetes world, there's a lot of research being done on that, on like the mental health aspect in regards to type 1 diabetes. For me personally, though, I feel like every once in a while I go through extreme burnout, and as a result of the not so pleasant experiences I went through during my teenage years, I now understand the importance of kind of cutting myself slack and taking a diabetes break. I don't know if you guys heard that term, but it's something that a lot of people in the diabetes community here use. And it doesn't mean that my diabetes is going to go away, or I'm going to ignore my diabetes, or I'm not going to take care of my diabetes. It's just basically saying that I'm going to cut myself more slack and not let diabetes be in the forefront like I always let it be, just for a short while, 2 weeks. And that's like another thing to realize as well, specifically for the parents. I feel like because of the way that parents care about their kids, they always want their kids to be safe and within range and like perfect control 24/7 to protect them. But it's also important to realize that complications are a long-term issue. And so, for example, for me, usually my target range, again, this is not medical advice, this is for me personally, my target range is between 70 to 130 on a normal day. But when I'm going through burnout, I'll just stretch that out and be like, okay, I'm going to be totally okay with my range between 70 and 200, and I'm just going to let it be. I'm still keeping myself in a relatively safe zone, but it's not as tight of a control. Sometimes I take a pump break. I feel like it's not something that is a constant reminder. And depending on where I am mentally as well, some days I feel like I need to be more involved in the diabetes community to help me with my burnout. But then there are some days where I feel like I need to take a step away from that, given that diabetes is my career, my passion, my life, everything. Sometimes it does get overwhelming, and I need to focus my attention on other things and kind of step away from that. And another thing that is extremely, extremely, extremely important, and I don't think it's emphasized a lot, especially in the Arab world, is it's okay to have professional help with mental situations. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have a mental illness. It's okay to have a therapist, someone to talk to, someone to help guide you. Diabetes is 24/7. It affects every single aspect of your life, and it gets a bit too much sometimes. And I think having a therapist there who's specialized in chronic disorders, and if they happen to be specialized in diabetes, that would be great. But it's good to have someone else's perspective as well, to kind of validate your feelings, if so to speak. So
that's really great advice. And actually, we had a call last week. Our first call in the series was with a psychiatrist who talked about exactly that and some of the challenges and stresses of it. And that is recorded and up on our website, so you can go listen to that. Or if you're in the UAE and you're looking for some support, we can, recommend some qualified people that can help. And actually, you mentioned something, and Cyrine, maybe you could take this next question. Miriam asks, what can we do as parents to help support our children become more accepting of their type 1 diabetes? And Miriam has 2 children with diabetes. One is 13, diagnosed at the age of 9, and the other's 18, diagnosed at the age of 17. And Nora doesn't like it when she mentions it or discusses it. So what is some advice that you have?
Okay, so basically, I'm gonna talk out of my own experience. I was a lonely child and I developed diabetes at 14. And I had a lot going on in the back of my head, not just because of diabetes, because I kind of knew that I was a burden. Like, I felt like a burden for my parents, because now they have these extra expenses, and we come from a not so good economic background. So for me, that kind of made me not want to talk about it, because I thought that if I talk about it, then I'd make my parents sad. Then comes the part where I was this super smart teenager, this geeky girl who reads a gazillion books, and now I'm limited because I had this illness. These are all things that were going back, like in the back of my head. So all of these things made me hate talking about it, hate being asked about my numbers. I felt judged whenever I had like something above 150, because you're supposed to be in range all the time, and that puts lots of stress. So I don't know why your daughter doesn't like to talk about it. That it's probably good to kind of figure out why. If you can maybe get her to see someone who is a qualified professional, it would be better. But I can tell you that if she doesn't want to talk about it with you, don't push her into it, because I personally hated when my mom used to push me into talking about it. I started to lie, I started to fake my tests, I started to hide from it, and I went to burnout by the age of 16. So this is my personal experience. It doesn't have to be your daughter's, but I'm just kind of showing you how it goes. I think it's best that if she sees professional help, because that is the best way to go. And maybe it's good if she has diabetic friends, because these would kind of lessen the burden, like to have a community of people she can talk to. She can join our WhatsApp group if she wants. Like, we have a WhatsApp group with almost 20 people, and we just talk and rant about our diabetes every single day, just because we need to, like, because we know that we understand each other. So my advice to you is don't push her into it. Maybe get her people who have diabetes and can't maybe understand or relate to what she's saying, and maybe you should seek out professional help.
Yassmin's got her hand up.
I want to add to that is for parents especially, Dad, I love you. This is not for you. Don't make your relationship with your kids, with your daughters and sons, only about diabetes. This is something that I've struggled with my parents, is especially my mom, because she was the one who's like giving me the injections and asking about my blood sugar. Don't make your relationship with them only about that. You're not their nurse. A nurse can do that. There are many other things growing up that we need to talk to you about, other than diabetes, other than we ate or not, other than how much our blood sugar is, how much, like, did you take your needle? Did you check? It's the relationship is not a nurse and someone who has diabetes. It's a mother, daughter, father relationship. So it needs to, that the other parts of the character needs to be explored. Ask them how they feel, ask them how they're doing in school. This is one thing. The second thing is, don't, as much as you can, I know that your heart hurts when they hurt. I feel that, but try not to show them, because when we prick, or when we take a needle, or when we have the pump with us, and the parents kind of go like, ouch, we go ouch as well. So try not to make it that way. And then the thing that Cyrine also talked about, and I've seen this with many of the adults that I know now who have diabetes, is that on some level, we kind of feel like a burden, and it's hard to push that out of your subconscious mind. Although I'm sure none of the parents here, neither my parents ever like told me you are a burden. That never happened. But on some level, I felt that me being diagnosed has affected the life of the family around me. So trying to be as normal as possible around your kids, talking about, that's my dad.
I was just going to ask you, I think I'm going to cry. That's so sweet.
Talking about, I love you too, Baba Habibi. Talking about other stuff, it's important. Like when you talk about diabetes, like try to go somewhere else and talk about it. Don't talk in front of your kids. That would be.
I have something to add. That's the final kind of thing I'm gonna fill up today, and because I have to leave, is when you ask your kids, when your kids leave the school or when they're out with their friends, don't ask them the first question, how's your diabetes? It's like I have let's say I have a pimple on my forehead, and you keep on, it's like you having a pimple in your forehead, and I keep on asking, how's your pimple? It's red today, it's white today, it didn't get, you didn't get rid of it. It's the same question, but you ask it every day, every day, every day, every day. Why don't you make the question about diabetes once a day or once every 2 days? How is your diabetes? How things are going? How do you feel about school? How do you feel about your friends? It's because diabetes is always in the picture. It's like your son or your daughter is an artist or a dancer, or let's say they love math, they love science, and you extract all of that and just put in the picture diabetes. Even kids, if they need psychological help, also parents, I do find parents, some of them need psychological help. They need sometimes to have the skills to communicate, because some parents are really not good at being parents. They are really bad at being parents. And I've seen a lot of people going through that. It's how they communicate. Sometimes maybe the communication at home is completely different than what you see outside the house. It's sometimes parents can be very caring, but in the house, you don't know what's going on. That's one of the issues that actually is not being discussed and being talked about. It's very much important to know the communication skill at home. Number two, there are many books that talks about, like there is T1D Teenagers is talking about the skills of parents and giving the responsibilities and how your kid should be in charge and how to work as team and how to be responsible about certain aspects of diabetes. Diabetes is considered to be part of their daily aspect of life. They're not considered to be the whole picture. Thank you so much for this panel, but I have to leave, and good luck, everyone.
Thank you for joining, Mohammed. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Take care. Okay, we'll continue with the questions just before we have to wrap up. And someone also asked a question about being overbearing, and I think you all mentioned that.
Pam, can I just quickly add one thing before we jump on the...
Yes, please do.
So I think like one of the things as parents is realizing the importance of language that we use. And one of the biggest things that we always try to emphasize to our patients and our study participants is the blood sugar, your kid's blood sugar should just be a data point. It should not be associated with any form of judgment, any feelings, or anything at all. You know, if your kid is 400, don't gasp and don't be like, oh, like place judgment. What did you eat? Or, oh my God, that is bad. You know what? 400 is just a number. Something happened. Let's just take our insulin, correct it, and move on. So your kid doesn't associate. There's just a lot of feelings as a person with diabetes to unpack with these numbers. And you as a parent, a parent is someone we always look up to and is our role model, and we look to our parents, or the kids look to their parents to read kind of the room or the situation. So how you react to a number plays a lot into the mindset and and will affect the relationship and how you deal with it. So just try not, there's no such thing as good or bad number. It is just a number that will help you figure out the game plan moving on. So language really, really matters.
That's really great advice. I agree with you about the language. I have a follow-up question to that though. What then would you suggest, let's say, and a high number here and there, it happens for sure. And of course, as we discussed, burnout happens. How would you suggest that parents go about when you have, your child's at that stage where they're responsible, or taking control of their diabetes, and you want to find that balance between them being consistently taking care of it versus just ignoring it, where, they want to become more independent. They want to do stuff. They want to, be left alone about it, but you want to make sure also that they're safe. So how do you suggest that we manage that, right? Because of course we don't want to nag them and we don't blame them for having type 1 diabetes, but if it's becoming a challenge where you don't feel you could let them, go out to the mall with their friends safely because they're just ignoring it, and it's consistent, it's not like a one-time episode, what would you suggest?
So with type 1 diabetes, like you're a kid with type 1 diabetes and a parent, it's the same as any other relationship. It just has a very slightly different dynamics. I think it's very important to establish that relationship and make sure that you have an open and honest communication channel to allow your kid to come to you even if they are having a problem, which again is where I emphasize the importance of language and how you address situations. So you want to allow a safe zone for your kid to be like, you know what, I haven't been taking my insulin the past week. I am feeling like I don't belong or whatever. And they need to make sure that you're that safe space for them so they can be comfortable talking. And I know as teenagers, the frontal lobe is not developed. So it's not always rational thinking. But if you see like repetitive patterns, I think it's an important thing to bring up with the doctor and kind of allow them, for lack of a better term, to be the bad person. So they can take lead on that. If it's like more on the high side, then that is not something that it will affect them in a week or two. Complications are again long-term. So that's probably one approach to kind of help them, but also realize that mismanagement of diabetes or highs and lows sometimes comes with a whole other story behind it. It's not just it can be physiological and something you need to adjust your insulin, or insulin they weren't taking their insulin. But even if their behavior patterns were not where they're supposed to be, then there's usually a psychological reasoning behind it, wanting to fit in, or being embarrassed in class, or not wanting to check their blood sugar in front of their kids, or burnout, or I can go on and on and on. There's like a million things that can affect diabetes, but I think it really starts at the root of it is having that safe space for your kid to be able to have that open and honest conversation, and you realizing that there is a time and a place for diabetes, and it's not always everywhere and everything, even though diabetes is everywhere and everything, you know, at all times. But like a couple of them, like Mohammed touched on, like it's picking up, when you pick up your kid from school and they get in the car, that's probably not the right time or place to discuss that issue. Or if they're going out with a friend, again, that's probably not the right place or time to discuss that issue. So also as parents, I think it's very important to read the room.
For sure,
and
for sure. And get comfortable with silence. Sometimes you pick them up from school like, hey, how was school? And then you'll get the, it's okay. And just don't ask any other questions. And then they'll probably talk eventually about something.
Yeah, and I think
happened.
Actually, one thing I learned as a parent from one of the parenting classes that I attended, and I think, and now I share a lot with the parents with type 1 diabetes, is so a very good way for you to get your kid to open up is to share your story. So instead of like getting, if they get in the car and you're like, how was your day? It's like, oh, okay, or we didn't do anything. Tell them about your day and share the good and the bad, so they know that, so that trust and honest conversation goes both ways, and they also realize. So a lot of times we also as kids place our parents on a pedestal, and you want your kid to realize that, you know what, we all mess up and we all make mistakes, and that's okay, and that makes them comfortable as well. If they feel like they messed up, they know that, you know what, mama also makes mistakes, mama always also messes up sometimes, so that must mean that it's okay for me to do it as well. So that also kind of helps strengthens the relationship and allows that safe zone for them to be open about things.
Great, thank you. We have so many more questions, and it's already after the hour. I don't know if you all are okay to stay on and answer just a couple more questions. We'll just go through very quickly, and I'm really sorry for that, because I think, like I said, we could talk to you all day. Emily says, it's wonderful to be a part of this group and see so many lovely people. Thank you for sharing your stories. She's had diabetes for 25 years, which she can't quite believe. And it's hit hard recently through COVID and being extra careful about social distancing and not going out. She says, I feel for the first time that diabetes is discriminating against me and what I can do. Can you relate to this, and how have you helped yourself? Like, because, you know, everyone talks about COVID and diabetes, and even without diabetes, it's smart to keep, you know, distancing socially, and this is difficult. How are you all managing social distancing?
I'd love to talk about the stigma part and the things we feel in relevance with diabetes. Like, I feel as part of living in the Arab world, there are already so many question marks and like lack of education around diabetes, and being a woman with diabetes to begin with, without COVID and everything, is so like, it's a very like complicated thing. Like, the first thing people will tell you is, can you have kids? Can you live a normal life? Can you get married? Like, these things are not acceptable to begin with. Like, people don't have, they should not have the right to ask questions like this, because they are very, they're hurtful, you know? Like, so to begin with, there is a lack of education. With the COVID situation, people immediately like kind of associated COVID with diabetics dying, whereas, or like contracting it. Whereas if a diabetic does get COVID, they might have a higher risk of complications if they're not managed well. But otherwise, they'll be fine. And I actually know several people who are diabetic who had COVID and they had zero symptoms, you know? But like, automatically that kind of put us in a box. Like, we're supposed to stay home, like be afraid. Like, we are just like any other person. We are just at a higher risk of complications. So for me, I think it was even more important to talk about it. Like, guys, just wash your hands, wear your masks, and live a normal life. You don't have to live in the extra stress of what if I get COVID? We don't need that. Like, we already have a lot on our plates as diabetics. We worry about so many things. So just don't allow any situation to put you in a box as a diabetic. This is not something that limits you. You just have to know how to live properly with it. If it means taking extra precautions, then great, but don't let that put you like in a mental state where your content's like always worried, or it's always in the back of your head. Live life, enjoy life, find joy, enjoy time at home, enjoy time with your husband, with your children, with your parents, Zoom with friends. For me, this COVID situation has been the best time of my life. I've literally done so much and met so many people, and like have been out there virtually, and I have never thought of what if I get COVID. If I get it, then I'll see what I do. But until then, I'm just living my life.
Yeah, it's been great for connecting actually virtually. I'm going to go to the next question for the sake of time. Someone's asking, my son is so quiet about diabetes. He never gets into conversation with me. And we kind of talked about it a little bit with Miriam, whose daughter didn't want to, you know, really talk about it. Does anyone else have any advice? Is it different for boys and girls when they don't want to talk about it? Any thoughts about that?
I believe I can add to what the girls have mentioned before. All of the things that they mentioned would make the you know, the kid with diabetes feel like his parents or her parents are understanding them more. So the more supportive the parent is, the more open the kid will be. And I think this is something that I live in right now. Like I still live with my parents. I'm 21, although that I'm 21. But I believe that when my parents just like, you know, let me be by myself, you know, take the responsibility of my diabetes. Of course, they were like following up on everything that I do. They were asking, you know, asking if they can help. Just as we mentioned before, I was more open when I felt, you know, safer, that yeah, I can talk to my parents more about my diabetes. And one thing that we just said, I think Noor said it, that the numbers are not to judge. You can't judge by a number. So my parents never judged me before, like because like I'm high or because I'm having a low. They were just like, you know, you're feeling better right now. What did you do for this to happen? Can you, you know, make yourself better? Can you help yourself? Do you want anything? Can we help? So I believe, you know, being more supportive will let the kid you know, understand more and open up more about his diabetes. And I believe when you are comfortable with your parents, you'll be more comfortable talking to the community about your diabetes. You know, because if the internal environment in your home is good, this means that you'll be able to talk more outside. So yeah, more support. This is what I could suggest.
Great. And
I just have a quick follow up on that. I think that gender really does have a significant impact on how they react to things and how they develop relationships. And we see that in our clinic, actually, especially with teenage boys. I'm not sure how old your son is, but with teenage boys, so we have two. We actually have more than two, but we have two main clinical psychologists who deal with type 1 diabetes kids. And we usually refer them to the first one, who happens to be female, just because she's the one taking the lead and the other one is doing more research work. And we've noticed that a lot of teenage boys, it's harder to get them to talk to a female physician. So the hard cases, we end up sending them to the male physician. And it seems just like instantly they just open up. They feel that someone understands them. It happens to be that the male physician also has type 1. So that might be another added factor where they feel that he gets it, you know, he's a male, he has type 1. So maybe finding someone, it doesn't need to be a healthcare provider, someone in the community who has type 1, who's a male figure, someone that they feel that someone that really gets it, that really understands them. And it's easier for them to open up. And if your kid is still not open and receptive, then maybe he's also dealing with a lot of emotional baggage that comes with diabetes that he needs to process through, because diabetes diagnosis is a trauma, and if it's not processed properly, that can manifest into a lot of other different behaviors. So that might be something also worth exploring.
Great. And Sophia, who's 11 years old, has a question. She says it's similar to Zaina's question, but did you ever get left out of friend groups or games, etc.? And if so, how did you deal with it? She also talks about her best friends are very nice about her having diabetes, and they motivate her a lot. But there are still some rude students that say, you know, stupid things like, so if you don't eat sweets, you're going to die, or you're so different from everyone else. How do you handle those situations?
I can start with that. So thank you so much for being here. First of all, that's awesome. And thank you for asking this question. Having diabetes, I know, makes us stand out sometimes in a way that we don't want it to stand out, especially sometimes you just want to blend in and fit in and feel, quote unquote, you know, normal. But a lot of times it's also how we feel about ourselves. So it's really important for you to be comfortable and confident in yourself and know that diabetes can be one of the biggest blessings. It makes you stronger, it makes you resilient, it makes you kind, it makes you so many other things that majority of your friends are probably not. And the fact that you are living life with diabetes says a lot about your capabilities, and you living your best life and taking care of yourself and doing everything your friends do. I think that will also reflect on the kind of person that you are. You know, people will look at you and be like, oh, mashallah, she's amazing. She, I don't know, plays soccer, or she dances amazing. She, whatever it is that you do, even if it's just, even if you don't have like one specific thing that you do, like, oh yeah, she goes out with her friends, she's happy, she's healthy, you know, that will help. How you live your life will most probably be how people will view you. Sometimes you will get those insensitive comments or those rude comments, and I think those, it's also very important for us to change our perspective on how we view these comments. I used to get very defensive about it and be like, oh, that was so stupid, like, and then I'd take a step back and be like, well, when I first was diagnosed, I knew nothing about diabetes. I didn't even know I had something called a pancreas, you know. So it could be a learning opportunity to be like, oh, seems like you don't know enough about diabetes, let me educate you on 1, 2, 3. And sometimes we don't want to be the educator, we don't want to be the advocate, you know, I just want to be me. So you'd be like, you know what, maybe it's time for you to look up diabetes on the internet, and kind of just step away from that conversation. You don't owe anybody anything. That's another thing that's important for you to realize. You don't owe anybody anything. So if you want to advocate for diabetes and educate them, go for it. If you don't, just step away from that conversation. Just be you and be proud of who you are, because you are amazing with and without diabetes.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I read down in the chat, she has big plans too. She wants to become a pediatric endocrinologist. And I'm sure that you will be an amazing pediatric endocrinologist.
Go, girl.
Yeah, that's awesome. I see also Dr. Kadira has emphasized, she's also type 1, and she's emphasized that, you know, burnout can happen, and at some point, you know, professional health is important. Did I get, and someone says, hello to you, Noor. I'm Lean's mom. I hope you remember us. You were such a great support for us at the beginning of diagnosis at the time when we needed it the most. So happy to see you here.
Pam, for a
Yes.
burnout, I would also highly recommend picking up a book about diabetes. Like if you feel a burnout and you're grown and you're an adult like all of us, I would buy a book about diabetes, even if it's just the basics. And I would go over them. And like also Noor said, during my yoga practice, whenever I practice yoga, I remove the pump and I give myself this 45 to 1 hour where I just like the sound of diabetes in my head is just not there, and I just like log off for an hour maximum, and I'm without the pump. I don't feel anything connected to me, and I feel free when I do so. So if you do have a practice where you can either, if you're on needles, then you don't need to do so. But if there's something connected to you, just remove it for a little bit and live freely, like eat whatever, even if you're craving something and you know that it's not ideally good for like a diabetic, but if you're really craving it, just go for it. It's okay.
That's amazing advice. Yeah, feel free.
At the end of the day.
And on the subject of books, do any of you have any favorite books about diabetes for adults?
How to Think Like a Pancreas.
Yes, I love that book as well. That actually, as a parent, that changed my life and how I managed my son's diabetes. I had no idea what I was doing. And in the beginning, when I found it, it was a lot of information. It was overwhelming, but it allowed me to understand what was happening and helped me know what questions to ask the doctor, because I had no idea. I love that book. And Gary Schneider's great. Yeah, Dr. Kadir says the same thing, Think Like a Pancreas. Fantastic. So we know Yassmin's, when she's not advocating, she's doing yoga, and Noor mentioned powerlifting. What are some other hobbies that you guys do? Nothing diabetic related now. Well, let's leave with some non-kind of diabetic questions or some non-diabetic answers. What are your other hobbies? What do you love to do?
I can go if you guys want.
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, I've kind of made a routine that is out of my diabetes. I love to cook, and I love to connect with people on non-diabetes matters, just to kind of talk about other things, because diabetes, I think diabetes like has 18 hours of my 24 hours. So it's just, I have to find something else to do somewhere else. And I do love to practice yoga and meditate. I think it puts me at the state where I just kind of disconnect from everything just for that 1 hour that Yassmin talked about, where I'm not limited by anything. I just flow, if that makes sense. And it brings me back to sanity every single day. So it's worth it.
That's beautiful. Mohammed.
Yeah. I also go to the gym. I power lift, yes. And I believe this, any kind of exercise that we do would be positive, would impact positively on our lives. So yeah, and I go very early. I go like at 6 a.m. to the gym, which is crazy a bit. I know it's crazy, but I enjoy like beginning my day positively, so the rest of my day would be great. I also like taking photos. I love that. I don't only like it. And a lot of our friends here would know what I'm talking about, because I send them a lot of pictures that I take. And yeah, I also, as I mentioned, go to med school. I see a lot of people. I see my friends. And yeah, see about friends. We were talking about, how to be, better by surrounding yourself with people who would understand you. Like my best friend is a type 1 diabetic as well. I don't know if he's watching right now or not, but yeah, he's part of our group and our WhatsApp group. And yeah, and I believe like being surrounded with a supportive friends or supportive group. And one of this group is a type 1 diabetic would be, I don't know, this is the ideal for me. I'm very comfortable when I'm around my friends. So yeah, I don't know. I also have this amazing wall. I love talking about my wall, by the way. I don't know, you guys can see it, right?
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, it's a lot of photos that I like, plus diabetes related photos. I don't know if you can see good. Is the camera around? I don't know.
No, we can see.
This is a diabetes related thing. This is about first insulin. A lot of diabetes stuff. This is I'm greater than highs and lows, which is on my shirt right here. I'm greater than highs and lows. I love to embrace my diabetes. I talk a lot about my diabetes to others. And it's something that it makes me, more powerful. So I have 2 t-shirts, 2 hoodies that are all about diabetes. So, I love telling people about my diabetes, and this makes me, proud of what I'm doing.
Wonderful. And that is a really such a great way to wrap this up, which I don't want to wrap it up. I don't want it to end, but we're 22 minutes past the time and I want to be mindful of the time. But I really just so much love and appreciate you all for being here and everything that you're doing, all the questions that you've answered. Like I said to Mohammed, I hope that we can do this again. I'd love to have you all back here one-on-one because I think everyone has more questions for you. And also you have so much wisdom to share with us. So thank you so very much. If you're not following us, Diapoint on Instagram, and you're not following anyone from the panel, you can go to DiapointME and everyone is tagged there throughout the week. You can then find their Instagram accounts and start following everyone that was here today. It's definitely inspirational and motivating. Even if you don't have diabetes, you'll learn something new every day. And this has been an amazing session. I was so looking forward to it. I think today and tomorrow are my favorite sessions because we're actually getting to speak to people that are living well with diabetes. And I just want to say thank you all again. Tomorrow afternoon at the same time, we will be speaking with the Team Novo ambassador, Blaise Dacal. He will be joining us from Spain. And so if you're available, make sure that you can join for that one. If you know somebody that missed this session that wants to see it, it will be recorded. We'll have it up in a few days. And one lucky winner who's been attending after we finish everything and we send out the survey, one lucky winner is going to get a case of our latest product, Pro Youth Nutrition Bars. I absolutely love these. They're all natural, dates, nuts, and whey protein, and super great. So somebody's going to get a case of those, and everybody that registered will get a discount in the shop for some really cool products if they like. Thank you all again so much. And Noor, I have to give a special thank you for you because I think it was 5 a.m. or something that you woke up to join this.
Yeah.
Like crazy o'clock.
Yeah, my husband was shocked because I'm not a morning person.
Oh no.
But no, I thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been amazing. I really, I'm very awake right now.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So.
Okay, so the next call we do, I'll do it more in the evening our time, so then it's a little bit better for you.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Anytime, really, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely day, afternoon, evening. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Thank you all.